Today, a bad week for Destiny players, a far worse week for Bungie's community manager. This is CheckPoint. Welcome to CheckPoint, where we're going to get right to it, because some of these stories are long.
Yeah, it's like we get paid by the word. We don't.
The next-generation Bolo remake, Batman Arkham Knight, was released last week to much applause from people who enjoy the Batmobile and grunting. Except for those playing the game on PC, who found the port had performance issues with everything from frame rate to graphical pop-in to supposedly HD textures looking like a PS1 title being played on the PS2's emulator with a smooth filter enabled. In a move that shocked everyone because it was the right thing to do, Warner Brothers pulled the PC version from sales until such time that they could make it not suck. That's a great move, Warner Brothers. That is the correct move. Full credit. However, it behooves us to mention that the best move would have been to care this much about the PC port of your game before you released a broken pile of guano. Guano means bad poop.
Bloodborne, as we all know, is a very challenging game. If you've played Bloodborne, chances are you've taken to the internet or talked to your friends in order to compare strategies and get good. Or better, I guess. It's kind of the point of those games. Unless you're Shuhei Yoshida, the head of Sony's PlayStation game development studios. If you're him, you don't have to muck about with all that plebeian GameFAQs bullshit. When I was stuck, I would send an email to the producer, Yamagiwa-san, he told Polygon. There are multiple endings, and in order to get all the endings in one playthrough, actually I played through 3 times, but in order to get all the multiple endings in an efficient manner, I got some advice from the producer. That's what he said. What the shit, Yoshida? This is like the 1% but for PlayStation trophies. You get to go straight to the source, but I have to ask my friend Cameron for help? Cameron's only qualification is he hasn't yet broken a PS4 controller playing this game. Or I guess I could go watch a YouTube video uploaded by noted Bloodborne expert 420 Bluntsman69? This feels unfair.
In the wake of growing demand south of the border, south of our border, we're in Canada. I'm talking about America. In the wake of growing demand in the US to officially abandon the Confederate flag due to its kind of irrevocable ties to racism, some big retailers like Walmart decided to stop sales of the flag. And then out of nowhere, Apple made a surprise and voluntary decision to remove any app from its app store that contained a Confederate flag, no matter the context. Some apps are being slowly added back on a seemingly case-by-case basis, as long as they adhere to whatever new rules Apple has set in place for games that qualify as historical or educational, and not, we assume, titles like Billy Jim's South Carolina Flag-Waving Simulator and Meat Thermometer? I don't know, it could be real. We do know, however, that similar to Apple's recent decision about guns in App Store marketing, screenshots or trailers for these games can't feature images of the flag anymore. So why are people upset that the flag is still flying, but also upset by Apple's new rules? Well, I've said before that a YouTube video may not be the best place for a nuanced position, but there's a very real and massive difference between a Confederate flag appearing in a historical game set during the time of the Civil War and an actual house of government flying that flag in all seriousness today in 2015. But let's not forget the real victim in Apple's decision. Your uncle, who only has 3 joys in life: selling cars, watching football, and playing Civil War strategy games.
Esports, particularly the League of Legends Championship Series, is quickly becoming big business. But unlike major league sports such as hockey or football, there are no third-party players' unions or professional organizations around to set standards for conduct, sportsmanlike behavior, or to spell out exactly what you're allowed to do and what you're not allowed to do in pursuit of victory. Instead, Riot sets the rules and decides when and how to enforce them. This doesn't sound bad in theory, but this week LCS fans were stunned when Riot banned a team owner from participating in the LCS until 2017. The person in question is Chris Doombang Badawi. He owns one LCS team and holds a minority stake in another. According to Riot, Badawi repeatedly tried to poach players from other teams during the season. Now, obviously, poaching players mid-season is shitty, but how shitty is it? Well, imagine if the Vancouver Canucks were able to buy out Alexander Ovechkin from his contract mid-season and get him playing for Vancouver. Sure, it would screw the Washington Capitals, but more importantly, if that behavior was accepted, the NHL would pretty quickly turn into a money-driven arms race and contracts would be worthless and the sport would suffer for it. That's why professional sports leagues have rules about this sort of thing. According to Riot, Badawi tried to do just that, not once, but twice. and they therefore decided that because of his repeated attempts to tamper with the LCS, they had no choice but to ban him for a year. Due to this pattern of willful tampering, we are declining to certify Chris Badowie as an eligible LCS owner and issuing him a 1-year ban, Riot stated in their competitive ruling. And then they added, in order for TDK and RNG to be eligible to play in the LCS next season, Chris will have to divest his ownership stake in both teams. That is hardcore, especially when you consider previous punishments for poaching have been a fine and a 3-week suspension. And while this decision doesn't technically punish his teams, it's not like they're going to be like, well, that doesn't affect us at all. So as a result, lots of League fans are pretty pissed, and the comment sections are now very quickly filling up with armchair pundits talking about how this isn't the way to run a sports league, and what LCS needs, and why Riot is stupid toilet heads, boo bleh. It's just like a real-life sports league, so welcome to the big time, Riot!
Come with me on this journey to the moon. Last week, there was a lot going on in the world of Destiny, specifically Destiny players getting very upset by a variety of things. First off, The Taken King, the third expansion for the FPS MMO, was announced at E3, and fans got pretty hyped up about it. That hype mellowed somewhat with the announcement of a $40 price tag, twice as much as the other 2 Year 1 expansions. The concern from the invested fan base is that this expansion won't have enough content to validate its cost, which is not an unreasonable concern. The game's first expansion, The Dark Below, under-delivered on that front, but the recent House of Wolves expansion added a ton of new content and served to renew confidence in Bungie. Even so, doubling the price is a hard sell when they haven't told us everything that will be in the expansion. And to note, they haven't told us everything that will be in the expansion, so maybe let's wait until they do before we decide they're not giving us enough content. This low-level frothing unrest was exacerbated by the reveal of a Taken King Collector's Edition that included the base game and both Year 1 expansions for $80. Obviously, the old content will be cheaper, that's how MMOs work, but the Collector's Edition also included exclusive shaders and emotes, purely cosmetic items, but purely cosmetic items that existing players can only get if they repurchase all the stuff they already own. So that upset some people. But it didn't make anyone actually furious until Luke Smith, Destiny's lead designer, gave a Eurogamer interview talking about emotes and the price for the expansion, and coming across like, well, in the words of his own apology, like an asshat. It made him look like a greedy jerk who doesn't care about players, and you'd expect better from someone who used to be Bungie's community manager. But he did indeed apologize, and the current community manager told everyone about a new plan where existing players can pay a bit extra and still get the cosmetic items without having to buy the whole game again. So everything had kind of calmed down. And then Red Bull sent out a press release. As part of a cross-promotion between Activision and Red Bull, the cough syrup-flavored sugar bomb that gives you wings, there's a new Red Bull exclusive in-game mission that you can only get if you buy a can of the stuff, and only from 7-Eleven in July, and then if you buy it from other places in August. This mission doesn't open up until The Taken King is released. It's part of the expansion, but unless you want to wait until 2016 when the mission goes public, you gotta buy the bowl. Oh, and you can only buy the special cans in the US and Canada, even though the codes work worldwide, so pro tip, get a stateside pen pal. The upshot is, Destiny fans are upset that even more content is being gated by buying an energy drink, especially on the heels of everything else I just said. Now, it's important to remember that making games is a business, especially for a big company like Activision, and it's entirely possible that this multi-part mission, with its own exclusive rewards, only even exists because of Red Bull's money. But it's a tough pill to swallow when Destiny has felt light on content since it was launched. Bungie's made an amazing game, but it seems that the one place they keep consistently dropping the big glowing ball is stopping for a moment to consider how their customers will react.
Wow, that was measured. I thought you were going to be angrier. Like me for the Megaten news angry.
Oh, I'm angry.
Wait, are you like Dad angry?
It's the worst kind of angry.
I'm scared now. Coming up, Steam has announced it will no longer restore items that players lose to trade scams because you can prevent trade scams by not being a dumbass. Apparently, in order to protect the value of digital goods, you have to let them be stolen just like real ones.
This is coming right off because it's really hot.
It's so warm in here. He's not mad. He's dad angry.
Dad
Run!
Hello, CheckPoint fans! A reminder that CheckPoint, much like everything we do, is now supported by you directly through Patreon. Please check it out. We would really appreciate it.